Did you say you want some 8K in your life? Well, today you're in for a treat because this DJI Mini 4 Pro actually shoots 8K. Are you ready? Buckle up and let's get started. Even though the sensor on this drone is an 8K sensor, this drone cannot shoot 8K video. It only tops out at 4K. It's not actually because DJI is limiting it. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the video. 8064 by 6048. That is the full resolution of this sensor, and what that means for photography, which is not as demanding as video, is you can utilize the entire sensor to shoot landscape photos and portrait photos. With that being said, most people using their Mini 4 Pro to shoot photos actually shoot in 12 megapixels instead of 48 megapixels. Imagine taking those 4 pixels, the 2 green, the 1 blue, and the 1 red, and telling those 4 pixels, instead of being 4 pixels, why don't all 4 of you go green? Or why don't all 4 of you go red? Or why don't all 4 of you go blue? And essentially, that's what this camera is doing in 12 megapixel mode. It's telling those pixels, don't be 2 green, 1 blue, and 1 red. Now all 4 of you is going to be 1 blue, or all 4 of you is going to be 1 red, or all 4 of you is going to be 1 green. And that's what it does. So those 4 pixels that are giving out a variety of colors, all of those 4 pixels get combined into 1 color. And now that 4 pixels is only 1 color. And if you take 48 and divide it by 4, because you're taking those 4 pixels and make it into 1, now you're left with 12 megapixels. So 4 real pixels are actually combining to do the job as 1. So this is a true 48 megapixel sensor that when it bins down to a 12 megapixel. And when it bins down to a 12 megapixel, your resolution actually goes from 8000 by 6000 down to 4000 by 3000. Now, why would you want to shoot 4000 by 3000 when you can actually shoot 8000 by 6000? Now, just looking at these photos, there's no, you can't really tell like, oh wow, this one has much better resolution or twice the resolution. They both look good. But if you want to see the differences, well, you'll have to zoom in. So let's zoom in. Let's start in the middle of the frame and punch right in. Look at that. We have zoomed in. Let's just go 800% on this. And because this is 8K, to get the same size image, we're going to zoom in at 400%. And there you see it right away. You can see it right away. The 4K image, you're seeing pixels on the word dogs. Whereas here, you can see the word dogs effectively. This whole dog just looks like pixels. Looks like a bunch of pixels. Whereas here, you can still quite clearly make out that this is a dog. Even if you look at the stars over here. The stars look like a bunch of pixels, and over here they look nice and smooth. So everything you're seeing here is basically ISO 100. The aperture is fixed, so you can't even play with that. And I just let the shutter select its own shutter speed to give it a 0 exposure. In this case, I did a -3 exposure. There you go. On the 4K, the 8K, I have to go. Now both images are the exact same size, as you can see here. Look at this tree over here. You could barely tell it's a tree. Over here, you can more make out that it's a tree. Look at the rooftop over here on this other building. This rooftop is just smudge. Over here, you still have some details. Same thing here. Look at the front of the building over here. It's gone. You can barely make out this over here. Whereas here, you could still make out the window opening over here. You could still see some of the details over here, and you could still make out that these are trees and these are graveyard. This whole thing here just looks like smudge. So again, the 8K trumps it even in low light, or I should say sunset. So for business, any kind of documenting, you want to be able to read things closer up, make out what it says, even details. You also notice something else comes with these details, a little bit more noise. There is a little bit more noise. Apply a little bit of noise reduction to your photo, get rid of that little noise, smoothen it out a little bit, and still have that 8K resolution. Just the photos need a little bit work, and that is primarily because it's a small sensor, right? When you have such a small sensor and you have a lot of pixels crammed into it, those pixels do not get as much light, and that's why the binning is good, because when you take 4 pixels and you bin them into, essentially make those 4 into 1, you get the opportunity to take those 4 and average out the noise. So bear that in mind. So it's not that the 12 megapixel has less noise, it's that when you do that pixel binning, it also gives you the opportunity to do what's called average out the noise. So essentially it's a form of noise reduction. Instead of having the camera bin the pixels and do the noise reduction, I rather shoot the 8K and apply a little bit of noise reduction in Lightroom myself, right, and have more control and higher resolution. But what about nighttime? The settings are basically the same here. You can see ISO 100, 1 second shutter. Same thing over here, ISO 100, 1 second shutter. The only difference really is the resolution that's been changed. So if we look at the 4K, let's go at this sign that says 108th Street. You can see it pixelating already. Whereas if we go to the 8K, I mean, that's just what resolution is. A lot smoother. Arrow doesn't look pixelated over here. Even the road looks a lot lighter over here versus over here. Now you may say that's a little bit of a grain. You can always smooth that out, the grain, and you won't see that. But losing this resolution to pixels is not something you want to reconstruct, as opposed to just doing noise reduction. When those 4 pixels are condensed into 1, doing 1 color, they tend to average out the noise in the pixels. And take a look, there's a car on the road over here. Let's see if I can zoom in on this car. 1600. Let's zoom in over here as well. That will bring both cars to the same size. Look at this. At night, look at this resolution over here versus this. So the resolution is there. This is a true 8K 48 megapixel sensor that's doing, in my opinion, a phenomenal job. And then a lot of photographers say to look, you don't need all of those pixels, especially on such a small sensor, if you're going to be blowing the photo up and all this sort of stuff. Look, I get it, to each their own. I'm just saying, for me, there's no way, or I don't think any circumstance where I would shoot in the 12 megapixel mode. Now, when DJI first started coming out, I think it was the Mavic 2 Zoom and then the DJI Mavic Air 2. When those drones were out, the 48 megapixels that they were advertising then was taking 4 12 megapixels images and layering them on top of each other. That wasn't a true 48 megapixel. That was taking 4 12 megapixel shots and combining them. So this is not at all what this camera is doing. And that's why you can shoot with confidence low light, long exposure shots and not have to worry about doubling an image if an image is moving, because it's actually just reading the full sensor. It's not layering pictures that were taken split seconds apart and movement could look blurred. Nothing like that. It's just taking one full sensor, complete sensor readout. And that's what you're getting here in 8K. So let's look at the noise at night. I'm going to come up at the top right in the corners. Doesn't look bad. Even at night. Come over here and compare that to the 4K. No, the 4K just looks a tad bit cleaner. Like I said, it's averaging. Nothing that a tad of noise reduction cannot take care of. And then you still get to retain the full 8K. Now, one last shot over here. Let's focus in on a window or something. Let's just a window with some light right here. Let's zoom in right there. Boom. Right by there's a window, and this is supposed to be a tree. You can't even make that out. Let's come over here to the 8K shot. Look at that. at least you can still make out this is a window and this is clearly a tree. Now, I don't know YouTube's compression, what it's doing right now in terms of if you can see these differences that I can see, but trust me, go out for yourself, shoot for yourself, and see the differences for yourself between these two. Literally just put the drone up, ISO 100, leave your shutter on auto, set your exposure to 0 or -1, whatever you like your exposure to be, it really doesn't matter, and snap that shot in 12 megapixel, then switch over to 48 megapixels, snap that shot, take it home and compare it for yourself, and let me know what you guys found, if you have found anything different, in the comment section below, because I'd love to hear from you guys as well. Are you guys going to be shooting in 12 megapixel from now, 4K, or are you going to jump all the way to that 48 megapixel 8K and utilize the full sensor? Why compress 4 into 1 when you can utilize all 4? So let's talk about why this 8K sensor cannot shoot 8K video. But if you put a processor in this little drone that can actually process 8K from this sensor, number one, this drone will get super hot. It will probably need a fan, and that alone will take it over the 249 gram limit. And even if DJI is able to do such a thing, it'll probably drain the battery a lot more and you won't get the battery life. So there's a lot to consider with this drone. But the fact that they do allow us to use the full capabilities of this sensor and shoot this 8K 48 megapixel utilizing the full range and power of this sensor, at least for photos, makes this drone arguably the best consumer portable lightweight photography drone, high resolution camera drone on the market available today. I don't think there is anything that can compare to this right now for photography. The other thing worth noting is that the shape of this sensor is a 4/3 sensor, and photographers generally prefer a 4/3 sensor over a 3x2 sensor, generally because 3x2 may be great for landscape, but if you're not shooting landscape, you want as much vertical resolution as possible. Speaking of vertical resolution, don't forget that this camera can turn on this gimbal, giving you a full 8K portrait shot as well, which is insane. Now, if you guys want, let me know. I've got the Mavic 3 Classic over here, and this is a 20 megapixel camera with a massive 4/3 sensor. Would you like to see me compare this to this little 1/1.3 4/3 sensor that has a whopping 48 megapixel and see if there's a difference? Technology has come such a far way with DJI, at least when it comes to photography in these drones, and you might be surprised to see what this little guy would do. Or not. Make sure you hit subscribe and you hit the bell to get notified when I do release the comparison video. With that being said, if you're looking for LUTs for any one of these two drones or any one of your other drones or cameras, head over to www.dronexfactor.com. I've got a bunch of LUTs there for you. If you want to support this channel more and help to keep the content going, think about becoming a patron. It's only $1 a month. That's $12 a year, and that's a great way to support the channel and keep the content rolling for you guys. I hope this video brought you value and you will take your Mini 4 Pro out to fly. With that being said, check out this video up here if you want to know more about this DJI Mini 4 Pro. With that being said, I will catch you guys, well, whenever I can.
Learning flights with Xavier.